Hello everyone, and welcome to Rebirth Summit 2026. I'm Philip Woolfolk, Managing Director of Main Street Advisory and Philip Speaks. Through Main Street Advisory, I facilitate funding for real estate investors and entrepreneurs. Through Philip Speaks, I'm an author, speaker, coach, where I provide engagements in the areas of financial literacy, home ownership, real estate investing, and self-empowerment, facilitating transformation from limiting beliefs to possibility thinking. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Judge Jennifer. Judge, I'm going to share a little bit about your bio before we get started, then we'll dive into it. So, Judge Jennifer has a DRI, FIMC, CMC, is a legal professional with 16 years post-call experience and a social impact leader whose life and work tell a powerful story of transformation. Her journey spans law, leadership development, governance, community transformation, but at its core is a testimony of resilience. Professionally, Judge Jennifer is an associate of the International Dispute Resolution Institute, a certified management consultant, and a fellow of the Institute of Management Consultants. Her multidisciplinary background places her at the intersection of law, policy, leadership, and social development. But Judge Jennifer's story did not begin with titles or credentials. She is a product of a broken home, raised by a single father in a hostile environment marked by neglect, abuse, social ostracism, and financial hardship. As a child, she learned early what it meant to survive pain, rejection, and instability. Education became her escape, her resistance, and ultimately her redemption. Against overwhelming odds, she pushed through adversity to realize her dream of becoming a lawyer and later a judge. With over 11 years of judicial experience as a customary court judge, Judge Jennifer has presided over more than 3,000 matrimonial and child custody matters. Each case deepened her resolve to protect children, restore dignity, and advance fairness, because the stories before her bench often mirrored the life she once lived. As a thought leader and storyteller, Judge Jennifer speaks with rare authenticity on leadership, family systems, engineering, child protection, human resilience. Her insights, shared across radio, television, and public platforms, are not theoretical. They are forged from lived experience and translated into practical, actionable hope. Judge Jennifer serves as country chair of G100, which is a child care protection and parenting, where she has expanded the organization's footprint across 4 geopolitical zones in Nigeria and coordinated nationwide child-focused interventions. Today, Judge Jennifer stands as a living testament that pain can be purpose, wounds can be wisdom, and broken beginnings do not determine final outcomes. Through her story, she inspires singles to maximize their season of singleness, reclaim their dignity, and build meaningful lives, providing that even from the hardest circumstances, something beautiful can emerge. You're a busy lady, Judge Jennifer. So let's dive into it. What was life like for you before your transformation? Describe the situation emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Help us feel where you were.
Okay, before my transformation, I was someone who felt unloved, and I felt like the world owed me a lot. I was an angry person. I felt undeserving, you know. So it all started from my childhood days. I grew up without the presence of my mother because I was told that she and my dad got divorced when I was 3 years old. And so my dad did his best, he was a super dad at the time, but everything changed after he remarried, and the home became a very toxic environment. And I was subjected to torture. I was falsely accused as called a witch by my stepmother, and she accused me of being responsible for my father's misfortune and her inability to conceive. And they ostracized me. And because of this false accusation, my father detested me a lot, and he stopped sponsoring my education. But because I had that dream, I still nurtured that dream to become a lawyer someday. I kept on, I didn't allow the situation to deter me. And on one of the occasions that they locked me out of the house, I was roaming the streets looking for a place to lay my head. And I ran into this man who took advantage of me. And that night shattered me because I felt like my whole world was crashing. I didn't, I lost myself in the whole
Right.
process. And then back home, I used to be told that I wasn't going to amount to anything. My stepmother used to tell me that I was useless, that I was an
Mhm.
agent of destruction. That was the
Yeah.
name she used to call me. And she hated my guts so badly. She told my dad to stop wasting his money on me. And so
Hmm.
at such an early age, I was fending for myself. I was feeding myself in my father's house. I had my own cooking utensils, and I was feeding myself. I was clothing myself in my father's house. And,
Hmm.
but the sad thing about my story is not what happened to me, is what that experience turned me into. So that experience, the whole childhood trauma experience turned me into an angry, bitter person. I
Yeah.
became defensive. I became aggressive. I was very, very contentious.
Hmm.
And unknown to me, I had become my trauma.
Yeah.
So that was about all, the person that I was before my transformation.
Sure. Sure. So what was your breaking point or your turning point? Was there a major moment or situation that forced change? What happened?
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a turning point for me. So, my turning point came while at the university. And so I was a member of a university club. And even though I was one of the leaders, but I was rebellious. I was rebellious to authority. I was very, very controversial. And in a way, conflict followed me everywhere I went. But this was largely unknown to me. I didn't know that something was actually wrong with me until one day when the leader of my campus club called me, sat me down, and he made a statement that marked a turning point in my life.
Hmm.
So that statement changed the trajectory of my life. He said to me, Jennifer, your behavior is not who you really are. It is your pain speaking through you.
Hmm.
So that statement struck a chord in me for the very first time.
Right.
And I didn't find myself arguing with him like I normally used to do.
Hmm.
I just went silent, and I was pondering on that statement that he made to me. And he asked me a question. He said, if you meet this version of yourself, would you choose her?
Hmm.
So I was I was speechless. I couldn't answer that
Right.
question. And that question kind of, it followed me all through the night, followed me back to my room. And I found myself ruminating on the whole conversation.
Right.
And it was at that moment that I knew that I needed help. So
Right.
that marked a turning point in my life.
Awesome. So who supported you in your journey? Did you have people, faith, tools, practices? What helped you get through that time?
Oh, absolutely. I did have a couple of people who supported me.
Hmm.
First, of course, that campus leader who later became my friend, he
Hmm.
supported me. He kind of, the conversation, that moment of awakening that I had with him that evening kind of marked the beginning of my transformation journey.
Right.
And he introduced me to his pastor, who later became my pastor, and the pastor's wife as well. She shared a similar experience that she had
Hmm.
while growing up. And she told me how she was able to overcome her trauma. And that was like these people were instrumental to my transformation, and they were kind enough to offer me some knowledge and tools, that
Right.
helped me on my healing journey. And I
Sure.
also had so they also connected me to divinity, and um they helped me make my they helped me connect with God, and as I developed an intimate relationship with God, I I found myself in God. I discovered my identity in
Right.
God, and that kind of helped to boost my self-esteem, and that changed so many narratives that I had about myself.
Oh,
And there were
absolutely.
also other tools. Yeah, there were also other tools that also helped me on my transformation journey.
Awesome. So where are you now in your journey? Tell us a little bit about how life has changed certainly from your
Okay,
bio, you have a
yeah,
lot
so
going
today
on.
I can boldly say that I have come a long way from where I used to be.
Hmm.
I'm no longer that angry, defensive, your contemptuous person to be.
Right.
So yeah, so I'm a lot better than where I was before. And the thing is, if you know who you are, pain cannot tell you otherwise. So I've
Right,
come
right.
to know who I am. I've come to connect with my original version,
Hmm.
and as I walk through my transformation journey, I've been able to shed off the broken version of me that pain
Right,
created. And now I've connected with the original version, of myself. So I'm a lot better now. And I've been
right.
able to pursue my life ambition. And today I'm not just a lawyer, an attorney, but I'm also a judge, giving back to society.
Right, right. So expand a little bit on, you know, how you're using your experience to help others in terms of your mission, the work you're doing today, because of what you've been through and how you've overcome yourself. How are you being impactful with your community?
Well, I would say that I'm one of the few individuals who have been able to convert their pain into
Hmm.
purpose. Because what I'm doing today, it stems from all my life experiences. So I didn't
Right,
choose to, yeah, so I didn't choose to wallow in my pain. Rather, I turned it into my purpose. So for instance, when I became an attorney in 2011, first thing I did was to organize a campaign against child witch hunt in my country.
hmm.
And after then, I volunteered in a rehab home as a teenage mentor, and I was teaching the children how to regain their confidence. I was teaching
Hmm.
them self-awareness, self-leadership, just helping them to get back in tune with
Right.
who they originally are. So I have used my experience to mentor and to inspire people around me. So after my call to bar, I also volunteered in a community where we organized an international conference for the protection of children in my country.
Hmm.
And just a few years ago, I got an appointment as the country chair for G100 childcare protection and parenting, and I threw my whole self into that role because it kind of
Yeah.
helped me to give back, to help
Right.
people who are presently going through what I went through. So
That's
yeah, so
awesome.
even though I've done a couple of a couple of even though I may have done a couple of things in that regard, but I am committed to doing more. I feel there's
Oh,
still room
sure.
to do more. Yeah, so
So what message do you have for someone who may be experiencing what you experience? What would you say to them to get them out of the being stuck in that pain and trauma state?
okay, so to everyone who is presently going through pain, here's what I'll say to you. First, I would like you to understand that your pain is not permanent, and whatever happens to you is not as important as what you do with it. So, what you do with your pain will determine the outcome of your life.
Mhm.
And if for on any for whatever reason you need a motivation, remember the story of one little girl in Africa, in Nigeria, who was abused, who was ostracized, who was rejected, but still she rose to become a voice, to become a judge. And I believe that if that little girl could do that in spite of her pain, you can do that as well. So I'm here to inspire you and to motivate you that your pain is connected to your purpose.
Thank you so much, Judge Jennifer. This has been an awesome conversation. Thank you for sharing your heart and your powerful story. Your journey certainly is a beacon of hope for others. This has been another incredible conversation on Rebirth TV, another story of unyielding courage. I'm Philip Woolfolk, and it's been an honor to host this interview as part of this global movement for healing and transformation. Stay tuned for more stories and more interviews from courageous leaders and speakers from all around the world. Until next time, this is Rebirth TV signing off.